Nena Ndioma is an accidental writer whose foray into memoir writing began purely as an attempt to make sense of her unraveling marriage in contemporary African society. Finding that writing had a therapeutic effect, she continued penning memoir-based essays for her blog Remembering My Journey blogspot.com until she accumulated enough material for her first book, Strange Woman. She's an American-born Nigerian and has lived in Kenya for over a decade. Take notes, you guys. Lots of notes. Thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Apologies for my voice. I'm recovering from the flu, so it's a little bit raspy.
Yeah, I'm sure our viewers can understand that,
Yeah.
And you are all the way in Kenya. Thank you so much. I know the time difference and everything is late over there now. Well, 8 o'clock, pretty much.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a
No.
problem.
All right.
Mhm.
So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
In a nutshell, I guess I would describe myself as a recovering blogger.
Okay.
Started blogging in 2012 about my journey going through divorce as an African Christian woman. And most of the content from the blog was compiled to become a book, which was published in late 2015.
Okay.
So really, that's me in a nutshell. So from blogger to sort of writer or author.
Okay. So, the book was so interesting. I remember when I was reading it, I happened to be in DC at the time, and I was telling my mom. My mom, for some reason, thought she had it. She was like, "No, I don't have it." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well,
Oh,
it's interesting. You need to get it." So,
I need to.
so I couldn't put it down, and I can't wait for our viewers to find out a little bit more about the book and definitely go pick it up. So, at the beginning of the book, you talk about how writing and talking to family and friends was therapeutic for you. Would you say that sharing problems and adversity is something that is not common in the African community for fear of being judged?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the kind words. It's very kind of you to say. About adversity in the African community, not necessarily. I think that we come together quite well
Okay.
around adversity. It just depends on what the issue is. So if you think about things such as funerals or illness, so on and so forth, you tend to sort of have the community rallying around you. And I think people feel that it's quite okay to be open about those kinds of things. But I think there are certain topics that are sort of a bit more taboo, divorce being one of them.
Right.
And so it can be quite a solitary journey sometimes if you happen to be experiencing divorce like I was back in 2012.
Okay. And in turn, for our non-African audience, can you describe a little bit about what a strange woman is? Like in the book, you talked a little bit about strange woman.
Right. As a matter of fact, the book is entitled Strange Women and Other Strangleholds,
Right.
an African Christian memoir of marriage, divorce, and survival. And let me just explain what I mean, not just for non African viewers, actually, because even though I'd heard the term strange women from the Bible, it really didn't become a part of my personal vocabulary until around 5 years ago. In the Bible, the term strange women is used to refer to sort of either adulterous women or women that sort of position themselves to sneak into people's homes and snatch away women's husbands, that sort of thing. Women that serve as some sort of temptation in men's lives. Likewise, strange men.
Right.
So that's like the flip side of the same concept.
And the book was centered around Christianity. In this day and age, what would you say is the true meaning of Christianity? Because, clearly simply going to church and Bible study doesn't cut it anymore. So, in terms of the concept of the book, what would you really say Christianity really is?
Well, I don't think the concept of Christianity has changed, that much, but if we're talking about, the context in which I talk about it in the book, then it definitely is, a specific variant or flavor of Christianity where it's more than just going to church and being nominal, but
Yeah.
it's sort of like this idea that you see. um, Christ as sort of guiding your way of life.
Right.
And the Bible becomes extremely important in the way that you live your life and so on and so forth. It's always like a sort of reference point. So it's
Mm.
much more than just, church going or even professing, Christianity, but really it's something that's really supposed to sort of radiate in, different parts of your life,
Yeah.
throughout your life, actually. Yeah.
And also in the book, you came up with a few rhetorics that you use when people will ask you about what was going on with the divorce, and you call those well-meaning people WMPs. How effective were those rhetorics that you came up with?
Um, WMPs. So
Yes.
how effective the rhetoric
Yeah.
itself
Yeah. Yeah.
or the people themselves? Sorry.
So you the when you responded to the well-meaning people, you
Oh,
had
I see.
phrases that you used to respond to
Right.
them.
Right.
Um,
Right.
were you able to use that to ward them off, or did it work?
I think, well, the intention actually wasn't to ward people off.
Yeah.
I'm always all about conversation and building relationships. And I think that my responses to well meaning people, we all have them, we all need them
Yeah.
in our lives. I think that my responses sort of did help a lot of people begin to rethink
Mm,
things that they had taken for granted,
yeah.
um, and begin to, understand a bit more that, just how complex an issue such as divorce is.
Yeah.
And that even though we would like to have a life that's either black or white,
Mm,
oftentimes there are lots of gray areas.
exactly.
Yeah, and so yeah, I think my responses were helpful in that regard for a lot of people.
And what kind of feedback have you been getting from people that have been reading the book?
Actually, I've been quite surprised that the feedback has been entirely positive.
Okay.
And I hear from all kinds of people.
Beyond wanting to raise kids in a two-parent home and keeping up with
Right.
appearances, what are the reasons have people given you, or the reasons why they stay in the marriage when it's clearly not working anymore?
I mean, a whole host of reasons. A big one is sort of financial reasons.
Yeah.
Another big one is just sort of wanting to be loyal or loyal to their family or not wanting to disappoint particular family members,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. Or being worried about their reputation in the church, for instance, if they are, Christian or religious in that way. Um, and one of the things I do say in the book is that I think that these are all really valid reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I feel like, sometimes people almost act like if it's a competition,
Mm,
like if you don't get divorced fast enough, if your marriage is horrible, for instance,
mm-hmm.
then maybe you're a loser in some way. And I almost find that people tend to give have this whole host of excuses,
Yeah.
for why they still are there in maybe a failed marriage. But I mean, I don't think we necessarily owe anybody any explanation.
Yeah.
We all have different situations and circumstances, and a perfectly good reason for one person may not be something that really necessarily resonates with me. That doesn't mean it's not a good reason.
Exactly. So, in terms of the church being an integral part, because I know you mentioned also that the church came in and they had tried to have conversations and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that the church is playing a good role in terms of trying to help keep families together? Are they understanding that these are the reasons why people need to, go their separate ways? Do you think that the church might be a little bit intrusive?
Um, Well, I think in my case, and my case may be, it might be against the norm, especially based on feedback I hear from other women. I happen to have had a very supportive experience with my particular church.
Okay.
That is not always the case, and I must say that the church really played their role to the extent that they could.
Hmm.
But I think that there's only so much you can do as a church if you have not fully interrogated the issue of divorce.
Exactly.
If for some reason divorce is a taboo topic, then it's really difficult to support those who happen to be going through it because you haven't investigated it yourself,
Hmm.
you haven't investigated it as a church, and so you really don't have the tools with which to support those who may have made this decision for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So, and that certainly applied in my own case. Nonetheless, it doesn't take away from the fact that my church was really quite remarkable in the way that they really did try to be there and sort of help me get through things.
Mm-hmm. So I know there's a chapter that you titled "Permission from My Mother," and that was really touchy to read that. And I'm sure most of us that have African, born to African parents or born in the States or born outside the continent can relate to that. So, what advice do you have for women that want to learn how to effectively communicate what they're going through to their African moms?
That's an interesting one. Well, if your African mom is like mine, then perhaps she's not extremely verbal and communicative, and maybe not terribly open, about certain issues. Certainly not about divorce. And so I found that what I had to do was to break the news to my mother in small doses and do it repeatedly. So it really had to be a process. It couldn't be a 1 hour, 1 day conversation. It was something that we had to talk about over time. And I think that for those of us with African mothers, we really understand the significance of marriage,
Mm-hmm.
not just in our own lives, but in our mothers' lives. And so when our marriages don't work out, there are serious implications for our own mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to be sensitive to that. Whether those implications are real or imagined,
Yeah.
I think that we owe it to our mothers to be sensitive to what it means for them, to have a daughter whose marriage didn't work out, or a son.
Yeah.
And to be really compassionate, even though we're going through our own pain and need compassion ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's the way that we need to approach it, is sort of be compassionate, be patient, and don't feel like this is going to be a one-time conversation and she's going to get it there and then.
Right.
I think it's be prepared for a painful conversation that will take place over time.
Yeah.
But I think they eventually come around because ultimately they want the best for us.
True. True. So in terms of people that get this book, what do you really hope that the takeaway that people get from purchasing and reading this book? I mean, there's so many takeaways, but and you can and then I know it will resonate with people differently, like it did for me. So, what is the
Mm.
main takeaway that you like people to get from this book?
I hope that the book will be an eye opener. I hope that people will read the book and come away with the sort of, oh, I never thought about that.
Right.
Oh, I never thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I'm giving people something new to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that people come away from the book being much more compassionate and also having the tools. I think increasingly we're going to have more and more divorced people in our lives, and having the tools with which um, to help out, to support, to be a friend, to be there, and so on and so forth. If that's all that it does, then I think the job is done.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how can people find your book? How can people find you? If do you do speaking engagements? So, just give us all your social media, website, email, everything, and we'll also put it on the screen too.
Excuse me. The book is available on Amazon.com, so that's a good thing. You can get the hard copy. You can also get the Kindle version if that's what you prefer. And in addition, I can be contacted via email at nenandioma@gmail.com. That's NENANDIOMA @gmail.com. And my blog is still up there. I'm a recovering blogger, as I said, and so not blogging quite as much these days, but the seed is still within me,
Yes.
and it's remembering my journey, remembering hyphen my hyphen journey.blogspot.com.
Okay.
So I can be reached through any of those avenues.
I know you're struggling with the flu and your voice, and I don't want to keep you any longer. However, if you can read an excerpt from the book to help us close out the show, that would be awesome.
Sure. I'm going to read an excerpt from page 65. It's called My Wedding Ring. We got a good deal on my wedding ring. It cost us $75 at Sam's Club, and that was a lot of money to us back then. It's a simple gold wedding band. I forget how many carats. I never dreamed about what my wedding ring would be like. Apart from the fact that I'm not big on jewelry, except for earrings, the sort of ring I would wear just never seemed terribly important to me. What mattered to me was to have a solid marriage, no matter what kind of ring I wore. When we got it, I remember thinking to myself, I bet this will fade in a year or so. Although $75 was nothing for us to sneeze at back then, I knew that there were much more expensive, sophisticated, beautiful rings. If it ever fades in the years to come, we can always buy a better one, I thought. We bought matching rings at the same time for the same price. For 12 years, I had this habit of playing with my ring, pulling it off from its tight spot where it had left a slight mark on my skin and rotating it around and around my finger. I enjoyed doing that for some reason. Once in a while, I would pull it off completely for a split second, just to see if it was still possible. And then I'd quickly put it on again, petrified at the idea of losing it. It didn't cost a lot, but it meant a lot. It represented the hopes and dreams of two young people with their whole lives ahead of them. It was a symbol of our partnership, our covenant. My husband, despite his propensity for misplacing things, kept his ring firmly in place without a problem for the first 3 years of marriage. By the end of the third year, his business ventures began to take him to another country. When he got back from one of his trips, he arrived without his wedding ring. He'd lost it, he explained, when I pointed it out. How do you lose your wedding ring? I wondered. But he bought another one soon enough for me to think nothing more about it. When he returned from his next trip, he arrived yet again without his wedding ring. How do you lose your wedding ring? I asked, out loud this time. I miss you when I'm gone, he explained. And so when I go to bed, I take off my ring and put it on the pillow by my side. It makes me feel like you're there with me. Weird, I thought, but I bought it.
Wow, that's amazing. You guys, you really need to go pick up the book. I can't tell you how interesting the book is and how you wouldn't want to put it down like when I was reading it. So thank you so much for taking the time out for being on the show. And hopefully we'll get our viewers to make purchases because, like I said, it's a very interesting book. Is there anything else that you want to add to our viewers that are watching?
Just to say, well, thank you, first of all, to you. I'm really excited to have been on your show. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Hope you do get the book. And when you do, drop me a line. Nena Ndioma at gmail.com. Let me know what you think of it. I love to have conversations with people. Thank you.
Thank you so much.